Hi, everybody. Today is December 3rd. So I wasn't expecting this many people on the call. So I was like pushing people out saying, hey, let's do it next week because John and Derek were going to be out. But since we have a dozen people on the call, maybe we can just chat. Even if we don't take up, we won't have quorum to like make decisions or anything like that. We can just chat about stuff. So the first thing that we were chatting about was Wojtek's reliability thing. Looks like it needs people to chime in. Why don't you speak a little bit more?
Yeah, so I think like Steven, did you have any specific questions, or should I just like, so did you want just me to like give an overview of the proposal, or?
Yeah, I think an overview for people who are not familiar with it, first off, and then what you want to accomplish first. Like, what can we walk into 121 with, or what do you need help with?
Sure. So basically, like the proposal is basically so we are proposing as reliability working group to do something to increase the bar for the reliability or quality in general. And in particular, like we start like the proposal consists of like four main things or four main phases, which ideally I would like the first one to target 121. We can probably, I don't think we will be ready with like the last three, but basically the first milestone is like doing something to reduce the flakiness of our tests. And in particular, what we are suggesting is to gradually, or at the high level, to block individual SIGs from enhancements or feature contributions if their tests are above some threshold. We will be like gradually decreasing this threshold to get to reasonable state. But we don't want to block everything. We just want to start roughly where we are and try to decrease the threshold over time. Obviously, there are like bunch of details in the doc. I'm not sure like how deep we want to get here. I think the overview is probably more important. We obviously need to like provide a visibility into what's happening and stuff like that. I think the details are in the doc and probably doesn't make much sense to discuss them here unless someone has any specific questions. I think the details are also described in the doc. So if someone is interested in that, like they should definitely look and provide feedback. And that's basically the milestone that I would like ideally to start happening in 121. I guess we won't be able to start at the beginning of 121 because we won't have all the tooling, but hopefully like somewhere in the middle 121 or something like that is possible. I don't think it needs to be directly attached with any specific release. I think we can potentially try doing it, try starting it when we will be ready, whenever it will be. But that's also something we should probably discuss.
Yeah, so from my perspective, big efforts like this need to happen at the beginning of a release because they can be rocky. I think for 121, my suggestion would be like if we can get things in place to provide visibility, right, at the very least, and no enforcement, but visibility, right? We get a solid
Yeah, so visibility is definitely a blocker for any enforcement. We definitely can't start enforcing something if people won't be able to see why it's happening. So yes, I think saying that visibility and all the tooling for enforcement without enforcing is probably a reasonable target for 121.
So we from the blocker portion, we have been kicking around the idea in SIG release as well to modify the merge blocking capability right now. I feel like the merge blocking capability is not extensive enough, right? Like if the issue is on, it's on, right? And then if someone closes the issue, it's off. So routing some of that functionality into Prow instead, right? So being able to, the same way we do like configuration of like milestone maintainers, right? Being able to do that for people who have access to run a command to block a release, right? So let's, from the reliability and release perspective, let's work together on that piece.
Sure, absolutely. I'm definitely far from being an expert in like all the tooling here, so we will definitely need your help. I mean, by your, I mean SIG release and SIG testing, and yeah, I guess probably those two groups. And like I think we are attached to the goal, but we are not attached to any specific tooling that I described in the doc. So if anyone has better suggestion on like enforcing that, like we are obviously open for any changes there or any, yes.
So I think there's also an opportunity for cleaning up some cruft. A while back, I think the board still works because it's folded into kind of like the config forker rotation logic in test infra. There's a board called SIG release config errors, and it's basically like a hand wavy idea of things that I don't think are configured properly. And one of the indicators of that is like if a test does not have like if the test has alert options, if it's on a SIG release informing our blocking board and it has alert options that are only SIG release, right? That means the area is not actually looking at their test, right? So I would consider that to be a config error. So I think taking an opportunity to go through some of those and identify sketchy tests would maybe weed out some of the work that we have to do in terms of building out visibility.
Okay, so yeah, let's think also offline on that. Yeah. I guess I will, or whatever, or whoever will be doing that, will probably need to look into what already exists. I was relying in many cases on Steve Kuznetsov, on like his familiarity with like testing things, but yes, we should probably, I definitely want to involve SIG testing at like soon after, or like soon, like pretty much now, more or less, to
sooner the better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like my goal was to start with getting at least high level buying on the idea and like high level strategy here. So the fact that we will start blocking some contributions, and we were never doing that. And as soon as we have this buy-in, we should start discussing the specific tooling and try to executing on that.
So I think a worry that someone had pinged me about with the proposal is blocking, I guess more specifically, if you think about PRs that cross-cut multiple areas, right? How can we ensure that we block for one, but not everyone, right? Like if a PR has multiple SIG tags on it, what happens then?
Yeah, so I was thinking about it, and basically it's a little bit hand wavy at this point, but I think that people should be allowed to like, let me start from the beginning. So basically any change, like if the change is only kind of boilerplate in the area of 1.6, people or the leads should be able to remove that specific label manually from the PR if that particular SIG is blocked. So that is my high level idea. So we should be blocking or maybe let's put it in other words. Like basically there is usually a SIG driving a particular change, and other SIGs are more like contributors to that, or like, I'm not sure what the best word is, but basically helping with that. And especially for changes that are some like cleanups, or we change the syntax of some function, or like the signature of some function or whatever, and we need to adjust like a code all over the code base. Those like shouldn't be like, we shouldn't be blocking because some random SIG is blocked from like feature contributions. So I'm assuming that like people there should be some group of people that will be able to remove the particular SIG labels from a PR and let it go. But it's something that, yes, we should probably discuss too.
So I would maybe flip that and say, like, what about an override, like overriding context, right? Because like you still want to identify that a PR is targeted for SIG, right? Even if the SIG is blocked, right? If a reliability approver or something can override the context and say that this should still merge because we accept that this is primarily in one SIG's area versus the other, right?
Yes, that's pretty much yes. I think it's clean. It's better said. It's roughly what I had in mind. It's like it's slightly different tooling, but yes, that's what I'm completely fine with. Yes,
because then we can also, like, I'm sure I'm talking about things that I don't know exist, but but I think that we could potentially key in on people who run that command, right, and get metrics of what gets overwritten and why, right, and dig into why, right. And I think that's another data point for us to use in the next release, right?
Yep, absolutely. I think yes, it will probably mean we will need to add some ACLs for specific subset of labels to do that. Obviously, it can't be a group of like 3 people. We need to make it, I don't know, 10 or 15 or something, but also not 100 or whatever. So
yeah, it's like I don't know, the like not milestone maintainers, but like maybe release manager size, right? A little
something tighter, like that, I guess. Yes, I mean that size of group. Yes.
And I think also with that, determining who should be working on this, right, and who might be in that group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so anybody else have anything to talk about today? Valerie? Hi, you decloaked, so yeah, I'm asking you.
I mean, I have not had a whole lot of time to follow this, but I think the proposal seemed pretty reasonable. I was glad to see this get sent out.
Hi, Hippie.
I figured since we're here, once we're ready for the next thing, I can give my update on the roll-up from the conformance project.
Go for it, but let's do it async also. Send out information to the mailing list, please, like you mentioned.
Of course. I will do that.
Before I forget, Wojtek, maybe you should send a reminder so people can look at the doc again when you make some changes.
Sure. Yes, I will at least try to address the comments that already were added and Steven's comments from today, and I will probably ping that thread like early next week or something.
Okay. And Sasha, let's do the same for the architecture one too.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
Thank you. Sorry, Hippie, go back to you.
Thanks. May I share the screen, please?
Yes, you may. Share screen. Yes.
And Rian, if you wouldn't mind dropping a link to the markdown, that would be great. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Can you see me?
I can see you, Hippie, but I can't see Rian. And I don't see your screen for sure.
I'm here. I'll help with the link just now.
Okay.
Share. How did that go?
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Beautiful. Here's our roll-up for the conformance subproject for the OKRs for 120. We've got our final numbers in. No radical changes. We're iterating still, try to get things with more velocity and stable output. Rough numbers since 114. I like this. This looks nice. And this is based on the conformance progress graph over to the right. I'm really proud of our group here. Final update for 120 is there will be no more changes because test reuse is here, and I think our release will be out the door. Yay for that. Of course, our main OKR every release is increasing stable test coverage. We had a goal of 30, and we had a stretch goal of 40. We got 24, and that's still good. It's 80%. And from an OKR standard, that's still success. Let's just be really clear. It's just not the 100% of what our goal was set for. These are all the very specific PRs. You can link those in the OKR. These are all created by Rion. Rion's our bot. We all share the same II branches that we all push to, so we can all push, but only one person can edit the content of a pull request at the top. So rather than trying to get a bot, we asked Rion to do that for us. So that's how you can identify our projects pretty easily. Outside of the work that we did, the community was really awesome in getting 8 new endpoints promoted to GA with tests. And we always want to see that every release, nothing new without tests. We had 13 NodeProxy endpoints that we had marked as ineligible because we are unable to find good ways to test those. And there was community feedback on that, but I won't dig into the details. Feel free to follow those links. Just to let everybody know, it's getting harder. We've kind of reached the 60% mark, and we have intentionally reached out to find the low-hanging fruit. We had lots of issues around trying to find deflaking tests, and that we needed, for the most part, increasing our timeouts to reach as our loads get higher on our CI. We're finding things flake a little more often on how long it takes things to be like pod ready status and whatnot. The Kubernetes, or for most of our CI jobs we consume, there is what we need from those jobs is the audit logs. And the audit policy for most of our large CI jobs excludes anything related to event, which means we've been unable to log and count all of our event related endpoints. So we ended up, instead of trying to create policy changes, we ended up creating new CI jobs that we consume that are specific to a conformance. And in those jobs, we allow all the event related audit logs to go all the way through based on those policies. As we hit endpoints that nobody's tested before, we are finding several upstream bugs. Each of those words is a different bug, I think. And so that is, will change the velocity slightly. We've also had images that we needed to have built underneath us. I think Agnon host is one that Stephen had worked on in order to add support for looking at the other options we passed to the to pod to that image. And we still don't have that released yet, so we're waiting for the next release. Hopefully the test that depends on those images will be in 121. And we're getting obviously much more community interaction. And it's also some latency. It takes some, everybody's so busy, and particularly this year, it's hard to get quick responses on things. The remaining endpoints, the summary here is the remaining endpoints are going to take more effort. Our key result 2 is continuing to clean up our technical debt. This is super exciting. We had a goal to clear our debt back to 115 and a stretch goal to clear it back to 114. We actually cleared all of our debt back to 111. And I'm going to zoom out for a second and show you that graph because that's super fun. This is 111, and this is the debt that still exists back in these particular releases. And when we get closer to 1.5, I'll go back and bring that graph all the way back to the 1.0 release. But we were able to clear basically a year of debt in this one release. That was super exciting. With regards to our releases, we did point out that we have a new K and for a proud job. that's running to catch new endpoints, and we're working with SIG release to at some point progress that from being something that our team watches and then reaches out to SIG release to hopefully a SIG release blocking job, so that new endpoints need to be either coming with conformance test or demoted back to beta before the release is triggered. This is gaining some nice community traction. There's some links there, and there's also a link to our gate.
So do you want to put it for release informing in 121?
I
would love to put that forward.
Was it not already informing? I think it's informing.
I think there's a special process that we need to go through that I don't think I have followed or initiated yet.
Yeah.
If it's happened without my help, then I'm super excited for that too.
Yeah, what's the chances of that, Hippie?
Yeah, no,
I don't think so.
I was tagged on some PR. I think it's the PR that you yeah.
I was advocating for it, and people noted that there is some steps and protocol to follow, and I will put that through for 121. Their further automation is in progress so that the main API Snoop website is actually pulling its data from some SQL dumps into JSON, so that when there are changes, there'll be a place to discuss it as a PR. And I'm not sure if that makes a lot of sense, but when we have a promotion into KK that includes new endpoints, there will be a period of time where those endpoints do not have tests, and it's where can we be alarmed of and discuss that. And for in our team, we create a new PR to update the data underlying API Snoop, so that when we can merge that, it's obvious which endpoints were a part of that. And that'll probably be more of the discussion around the release and forming job as that evolves during the 121 timeframe. Some cool other important news. 120, it wasn't a short release cycle overall, but the test freeze timeframe was a little compressed. The link here about the timeframes for 121 are still under discussion, whether we're sticking with a 3 release per year cycle or a 4 release per year cycle. I think those slides are from 2 or 3 weeks ago. So if there's any updates there, be good to know.
Yeah, I can give a quick update if you want. Or you can do it afterwards. Go ahead.
No, this is the time for it. This is hard for whatever our timeline for next year.
All right. So I think that, you know, the issue was opened. Part of the reason that I did the keynote on the release cadence was to gather more feedback. I think that we need to wait a little longer for feedback. I have a lot of people that are interested in the 3 releases. I kind of restricted the options given what we have to already consider just around like our API guarantees and like release branch management and like maintaining some of the branches and releases over time. So 3 seems like the least option. But given that we're rolling into the next cycle, I think we're going to stick with 4 right this second. And if we need to slide a release later in the year to compress into 3 for the year, that's something that we'll consider. But I do want to see more feedback, and kind of it's something that I want to get out of the way probably next week or something, to capture all of that feedback and kind of give a summary of that and request more. I think overall, you and I wearing like the release and then also the enhancements hat, since you want to start rolling in some of the API conformance requirements into the KEP process, as well as getting kind of finer touch point on how and when test freeze is happening, and if we need to consider where those land to help you be successful too. We can have that conversation too.
Beautiful. I still haven't. Go ahead.
Stephen, when will we know how many releases are we going to have next year? Can't be too late.
No, I know. It basically needs to be decided during 121, right? And ideally close to the beginning of it. right? But I am sensitive to the fact that like we're going into kind of sleep mode as a community, right?
Yeah, we have to tell people.
Yeah, that's why I want to try to get as much feedback as possible so that we can chew on it. But I don't want to make a decision around it without people feeling like they had an opportunity to give feedback.
Right, and SIG release has the authority to decide the dates. So
yeah, we have
up to you. We don't.
Yeah. We have tentative dates for 121 already, and those will be coming soon as the team is as the leads for the team have pretty much landed. But we're going to play around with the 3 versus 4 dates and I guess propose comparison, right? As in addition to the feedback, right?
So only other question I have is like, is there a likelihood that they might be of different lengths?
Yeah, that's what I meant by the sliding thing, right? Like if there is a decision that it should become 3, then we'll elongate, right? Or maybe thinking through it is a short version.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to accommodate KubeCon EU and then KubeCon NA. So they might not end up being exactly 3 months or exactly 4 months.
For sure.
One of them is going to be longer. The other one might be shorter.
With my KubeCon chair hat on, I do not want a release happening during KubeCon.
Exactly. Right.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Vince. We may not be aware, but Taylor Wagoner is the human who actually approves any of our companies that want to say that they do what we have defined Kubernetes is. And that process, being completely human, makes it prone to missing some things. And what we worked on, I think this was in the last release, was ensuring that the entire list of defined tests that we require are actually run and are all successful within the submitted results towards the CNCF conformance repository, which is the gatekeeper for saying you may use the CNCF Kubernetes logo. It is working, and I just met with Taylor yesterday, and they are happy with that. That's just kind of an update that was needing to be used. That was one of our deliverables, making sure that we are supporting the end-to-end of conformance, from defining what's lacking to helping the different SIGs get the test stuff written and us picking up the slack. Conclusions for 120. We didn't have any new technical debt, and that's one of the requirements for the CNCF funding. So as a community, let's honor that and help us to ensure that. I often equate what we're doing to we've had this kitchen operating for a while, and there were some dishes that were left not cleaned, and so we worked through to wash the dishes. But we've kind of put a policy in place that now everybody has to wash their own dishes. So I don't.
So the moral of the story is don't have a party. Like if you let a lot of features in, then there are going to be a lot of dishes.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and I love the graphs where we have new features getting introduced, and because it's always just neat to talk to those relationships, talk to those people, and see how long of a journey they've been on. Like I think this last thing was introduced in either 2017 or even 2016. And to see someone on a journey to get a feature in Kubernetes that long and be, getting to see that come through with clean dishes is exciting. 32 new conformant endpoints, and to clarify where those came from, 8 of those were from our new endpoints that were promoted, and 24 came from our team. Again, we have 13 newly ineligible, which reduces the surface area of our debt. We don't have a way to really highlight that other than there's a link that says the new list. It doesn't say when we introduced those, so you can't see the graph reducing in size. They're not terribly important. I don't like percentages because of the way all the numbers change. But in general, we're about 9% further along on our journey to 100% conformance for GA endpoints and getting all the dishes washed. Looking forward, thank you. Looking forward to 121. Not a lot of radical changes. I think we're doing a good job. We may be, we're going to keep the same goals. I think 30 endpoints is a nice, solid attempt. And just with a reminder that these endpoints are getting tougher, and then we're kind of digging deeper into all the complexities that those last, I think we're at 155 some odd endpoints. Yep, that's a kind of a summary of what I just said. We're going to still shoot for 30, and 40 is a stretch goal, but that'll definitely be a stretch. For our key results for the cleanup, we're going to continue to go back in history and hit the 1.11 and 1.10 API registration and API registration status. That's for a total of 7 endpoints. We do try to engage with the SIGs. In this case, it is API machinery, I think, to engage and get some assistance writing those tests. So if that's your area of expertise, we'd love to connect with you. Any questions or feedbacks, things that in ways we can help support the community would be welcome. That is
one other question I had is, do we have an idea of how many things are in beta, how many things are in alpha that are likely to go to beta, and then from beta to GA? How much is the upcoming pipeline?
Yeah, that's kind of, I think there's the KEPs, right? And kind of keeping track of what KEPs are ready for those next stage. There's some metadata that might be useful that I don't think exists, and that's tying in the open API endpoint names specifically into the KEPs, so that when they hit that transition point of creation into alpha, that's a huge milestone. It should be celebrated, a huge checkpoint on that KEP. And then when they transition to beta, it should be the PR length and celebration points. And then GA, same thing. And without that metadata, it's going to be a manual process of going through the KEPs and defining those times and dates in order for you to measure a type of velocity and historical where are we and where are we going. If you look back, we have this data on an endpoint level, but we can't predict the future because we don't know at what point in the KEP process they are, as far as are they intending to do that release. So I can only look at historical. That being said, if you'll scroll down to the release, you can see which things just got promoted to beta,
Understood.
just got promoted to alpha.
So I'm like looking at I'm looking for what is the size of bucket of things in beta currently, as compared to, how many things are GA'd already.
I'll drop this link into chat. This is the current surface area of beta. And if we click out, this is the current surface area of stable. And we can obviously go through and manipulate that data and display it in different ways. But
Okay.
it does not give us an indication of those beta things, which one should we be preparing for? Because we don't know their velocity and we don't know their intent.
Right. Then the other question is, when do you get to know? When do you get the signal that somebody is going to try to promote
2
something?
weeks before the release.
Yeah, I know.
How soon?
I was joking. This last release, it was 2 weeks. It was actually past the 2-week window.
Right.
Yeah.
So do we need to do something there to support you better? Is the question there, I guess.
So
Go ahead.
Let's sync up actually. Let's sync up from the enhancement side, because
I like that.
Yeah, the open API is like that's a good data point for us to include, because we're thinking through increasing validation on the KEP side, as well as like building out some other tooling too, and that's a really good data point to have.
I think we have a meeting on the 8th for the enhancement subproject. Do you want to do something just on that meeting, or if you need something before then, just let me know and I'll be available.
No, Tuesday's perfect.
Lovely.
Okay, I've exhausted my questions. Thanks a lot, Hippie.
Awesome. I will stop sharing somehow. Thank you.
Okay, did anybody else have anything else to talk about today? Clayton, I think I saw one of your PRs about a single repository for conformance images. So it's kind of related. That's the only other thing I can think of.
What specifically is that? Do you have a link or?
I'll have to go look. So the idea was right now the conformance tests go pluck images from multiple repositories. If there was a way to specify a single repository, so all people who are testing in-house.
Yeah.
So that's the idea there.
So yeah, we're building out on the release side. We're building out an epic right now for artifact management overall, and that includes the image artifact promotion as well as the Dev and RPM stuff. So thinking through, there are a few issues that were opened recently about consolidating some of like the test utils, image stuff, all of the various registries that get referenced. So yeah, if you can link me that PR so I can kind of connect the dots too, because maybe this is something we can tackle as we do that.
Okay. Send link to Steven. Okay. Okay. So if there's nothing else, let's wrap it up for today. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you all in 2 weeks. Bye.